everyone. I'm Emily.
And I'm Scar.
And welcome back to another episode of the Cottage Horse podcast, where we get whimsical, wild, and whatever else every other Wednesday. We have an exciting episode for you today, so we hope you enjoy.
Hello. So, if you're watching this, you probably have noticed our attire. Very professional. This is not going to be a professional episode. This is going to be very silly. In honor of Ace Attorney Investigations coming out on the Switch, literally this week on the 6th of September. So the day after this airs, I think, if I can know my calendar. No, on the Friday. I don't know my calendar. There we go.
I don't know my fruits.
I don't know my fruits. I don't know my dates. I don't. I thought it'd be fun to take cases with the original plan and make Emily guess how they actually die. Because if you ever know anything about any of the Ace Attorney games, you basically get set up in a court system. You're playing as Phoenix Wright or one of the other characters in the series. In this situation, we aren't even going to be playing as Phoenix Wright. Well, you're going to be playing as you, but for the situation, we're not in that universe. And then you have to defend someone who is being wrongly accused of being a murderer. And usually the way that the person does die and the actual true perpetrator is literally crazy. And that's part of the fun. It's really, really silly. So I was going to do multiple, and then I realized, actually, no, can't do that. That's going to be way too hard. And I wanted to deep dive. So I have taken a case and I have basically converted it into a text-based game instead of a game that you actually play. So who knows how this will work. I'm hoping it's good. I think I have supplemented it fairly well, but there's only one way to know. We'll get into it. I'll explain as we move on. You can feel free to play along. Obviously, I would advise watching because you'll need to see the slides because it'll provide you with information. And spoiler warning, this will be going into Ace Attorney, specifically the Great Ace Attorney Investigations, Game 1, Episode 4. So if you haven't played that, and you do, there you go. But otherwise, we'll begin. We'll see the vibe. Hopefully it's all good in the hood. Will it let me present? It will. Fabulous. So here's what we're working with. And we'll crack on. We'll go with it. I don't know how long this will take. So I am going to be also playing many a character. This will probably just be an episode of me reading quite a lot, so I apologize to those who do not like my voice. But I promise it is interactive, so it won't just be me talking. But whilst we set the scene, it'll be a little bit of exposition. So this is what has occurred. There has been a crime. It took place on February 17th at 5 p.m. on Briar Road. You will receive a map of the location in due course. You're going to be defending someone named Suzuki Natsumi. The victim was Olive Green, and the injury, stab wound to the back. And the weapon of choice was a knife. So that is what we're working with. So, this is who you are defending. It's this man. He is a scholar sent from Japan to England. So this game's actually set in England. So that's where we're at. So this is what the defendant is saying. He is saying the victim was stabbed before his eyes, but he didn't actually see an attacker. He also says that the attack occurred when he was leaving the bookshop. No one was at the scene of the crime but the victim and himself, and he fled the scene in fear. He reveals that it was Herlock Sholmes who led him to the police, and he says that after Sholmes, led him to the police, did his deductions, he basically didn't deal with the questioning very well and has ended up in prison. And now you are taking on the role of defending him because he is in need. Because he's like, I didn't do it. I saw it. Didn't do it, Chief. I know how it looks. But I promise I did not do it. So,
okay.
This is where we're going into... Picture this. You are at the crime scene. You are at Briar Road. I will be Inspector Gregson in this place. So I'm going to point out to you that the crime was taking place here on Briar Road. And there is a witness who is a police officer who we will come to as it comes to. But the police officer doesn't want to be questioned. So you'll have to wait until the trial. Police officer's like, no, can't do that. But I'm going to give you a local map. This is also entered into your court record. That is important to note. I would keep track of what is entered in your court record. You will need that when you get to the trial. It is handy to have. I'm also going to send you a picture of the court of the map, just because it'll be helpful to have as we proceed. So we're going to shift on. Basically, gone to Briar Road, done all the investigations there. Now we're going to the defendant's home. We're going to figure out a bit more scenario, investigate a little bit more, and we stumble across the landlord. So the defendant had only moved in a week ago, and the maid at the place said that he was shady. So shady behavior from this man who's just moved in. The maid also pointed out that they had not witnessed the incident from their window, so they are living on the street above. So they live on the street. They have one of the apartments that are above on the road, and they're like, investigate his room. Like, he's a weird guy. He moved in. He's doing his studies. We don't know what's occurring here. So, upon entering the room, we meet Herlock Sholmes, the one and only, the true legend. Herlock Sholmes, hey, this guy didn't do it. I led him to police. I don't think he did it. He just sucked at questioning. And as information, it's not uncommon for there to be single maids in middle-class households. They are seen as a status symbol. The room of the defendant lacks a window, and it's fairly cheap. There isn't much rent being paid here, so fairly cheap. And examining the room as you survey your area, you examine the desk, and hidden here is a receipt for the bookshop that the defendant frequents, and it just so happens to be from the day of the stabbing. So the second-hand book receipt has been entered into your court record for future use. You will be able to examine and investigate everything that's in your court record a little bit later on. So now, this is where your investigation skills come in. So I will let you, write up, and you tell me when you're ready, and we'll crack on to investigation, deduction. I dropped my lid, my pen.
This feels like school all over again, when your teacher's like, just write down the important things. And it's like, I don't know what the important things are, and you're just trying to write everything.
Yes. For everyone following along as well, and for your sake, I have on hand basically the stuff you do need to know. If you ever get stuck, let me know. I can provide you with helping hands. I know what you need. I know what you don't need. Obviously, that's how it works. I know what happens. There's a lot of information that's kind of like meh. Main key things I would say is stuff that's entered into your court record is pretty important, and then when you examine things, that's pretty important. Otherwise, most other things I wouldn't worry about until we get to the trial. That's kind of where you need to be a little bit more like clocking on to what people are saying, but we'll see how you go, and see how well I've laid this out, because this could be not very good, so we'll see. So
Okay.
Herlock Sholmes has this thing where he does crazy deductions from looking around the rooms, and they're usually batshit. And I'm like, sir, that isn't correct. And here we go again. He is saying that, as examining the lodgings, he is saying that a rampaging lion took the household by storm. Judging by your face, you have realised that doesn't sound like that adds up, Chief. So that is correct. So I'm going to give you some statements. The other statement you can examine. So you'll be able to kind of examine where someone is looking, examine something specifically, and then I'll lead you to what that is revealing. And then you can present stuff as well if needed. If you feel like it's going to provide you with extra information. Otherwise, I'll be like, no. I'll very clearly be like, yes, it does. No, it does not. And I'll give you it if it does, and I will not if it does not. So this is what Herlock Sholmes is saying. He is saying that the landlord, Mr. Greb, has diverted his eyes that lead directly to the answer of the cause of the rampage in the room. The true nature of the beast that has run rampant is revealed by the lion statue. What would you like to do?
Examine?
Yes? Okay, so you examine where Mr. Grab's eyes have gone, and you notice the lion statue. And next to it, you also notice some mortar shells and a photo frame. The mortar shells are from a cannon. They have some significance, as Mr. Grab was in the army. The photo frame appears to be from Mr. Grab's wedding, but you can't make out the bride.
Okay.
Anything else you would like to do, or would you like to move on to the other statement?
I mean, can I examine the photo?
You can. You examine the photo frame and notice that the glass is broken. So you can't see the bride's face at all, but you do notice that the ring on her finger is some sort of embellished sunflower. Would you like to move on to statement 2?
Yes.
Okay, so look around a little bit more and the beast in question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature have disappeared to, madame? So we're talking to the maid in this instance. Your dress pocket gives us a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts. What would you like to do?
I would like to examine the dress pocket.
You would like to examine the pocket. So, upon examining the pocket, you notice that the maid has 2 tightly shut eyes to avoid the chance of a giveaway glance, pursed lips to prevent any secrets from slipping out, and holding a teapot. In her dress pockets, you notice a circus handbill poking out. Is there anything else you'd like to do?
Can I examine the hand? Bill? Is that what you said?
Yep, so the handbill provides you no other information aside from the fact that it is for a circus. Travelling circus, that's all the information that you have there.
Okay. Can I examine the teapot that she's holding?
You may. So, upon examining the teapot, you notice it's a little bit charming and in pristine condition. You also notice a large ring on her finger with one of the hands that she's holding the teapot with. Would you like to do anything?
I would like to examine her ring. Is it a sunflower?
Upon examining the ring, you notice a sunflower design with some rather nice embellishments, and it's on the ring of her left hand, which means it's surely a wedding ring. Would you like to move on?
So wait, what is presenting items again?
So, for example, this, I wouldn't worry about this at the moment. It's just for future use. Essentially, there'll be evidence that you'll have like in your court record, or potentially like, unless something's in your court record, you don't need to present it. It'll be very clear, like, you have this to be like, this is a thing you'll have. As to be like, this is a contradiction, or this is why this is supporting something. So if you feel the need to be like, hey, this is proving that you're wrong, then you can be like, I want to present the blank, and it'll allow you to do that. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Happy to move on. We have more statements.
Yeah, we can move on.
Lovely, jubbly. And don't worry, I will let you know if you've missed something. I'll be like, we can't move on yet. if you need something. I won't let you go in and be like missing information. That's crazy. Okay, so you notice that Mr. Grab has had his head is weighing heavy on his shoulders, and that the pain he must be feeling is revealed by his supporting arm. According to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Grab's pain is tangible. What would you like to do?
I guess examine that supporting arm.
So, the landlord looks glum. According to Mr. Sholmes, that's because he's having to endure an acute pain of losing something dear to him. But we know he hasn't lost his wife. Also, upon noticing the supporting arm, you notice that the man has a pipe in his mouth and a mark on his cheek. What would you like to do?
Can I examine the mark on his cheek?
You can. It's a bright red mark and clearly has been made by someone's hand.
Someone got smacked.
Someone got smacked. What would you like to do?
I guess move on to the next statement, because I don't think I can examine anything else, can I?
No, but you could present something. What could the pain be if it's not from his supporting arm?
I only have 2 things in my court record.
No, think about just information that I've just given you there. From examining...
I mean, I would like to present that he's been schmacked.
And of course, the deliverer of that impressive mark on your cheek refuses to fade. Was you, Madame Joan Greb, the maid. So, deduction here. The maid / his wife slapped Mr. Greb. Interesting revelation here. So, moving on to statement 2. So, why was he subjected to such a violent slap? In other words, we must ask ourselves what caused Madame Greb to fly into such a rage, and we must need to only follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer. Yes, it is this pile of bills that has given rise to the pain you suffer. What would you like to do?
I would like to examine the pile of bills.
You may. Looking at all these bills, it certainly amounts to a great deal of food. You also notice a bookmark, stack of books, and a smashed plate.
Can I examine the bookmark?
Upon close inspection, you notice it's not a bookmark, but a note. It's a note written in a woman's hand. "Oh, James, I love you, yours, Mary." And look next to the signature here, lip marks made with lipstick.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
some tea has been
I would like-
spilled.
I would like to examine the stack of books as well.
Yes, so there are a lot of books stacked up on the shelf here. It would appear that someone has purchased them all from a second-hand bookshop. I think Mr. Greb is something of a book lover.
Interesting.
Mhm,
Okay, I would
mhm.
like to examine the smashed plate.
It is simply a smashed plate.
Okay.
that is all. You don't get anything else from that. It's just a smashed
Okay.
plate. No information
okay.
to be revealed.
Going back to that pile of bills, what exactly was it totaling up to? You said a bunch of food?
Yes, food receipts.
Food receipts. Can we examine that closer? Like, is it like restaurants or is it grocery shopping or does it not?
No further
Am I
information
thinking
can
too
be
hard about
gathered.
this?
Yeah.
Okay.
No further information can be gathered from examining those bills.
Okay. Can we present that I think he's cheating on his wife and that's why she smacked him?
So you'd like to present the note here
Yes.
and be like, you're being a fool. Yes. So Sholmes decides to announce the note. "Oh, James, I love you, yours, Mary." Passionate indeed. Perhaps the sender of this note, a certain Miss Mary, is the fly in the ointment here. Gah! But I don't know the Blyly woman. You don't know her? That note wasn't written by me. It was just in the book. I don't know how it got there. It was just in there, you say. That's right. That's what I've been saying. Ugh. A likely story. Butts in the maid. Now listen here, Joe Nold thing. I explained it this time. I brought that book at the second-hand bookstore, and this note must have been in there. So the previous owner of the book was using this note as a bookmark, you mean? That's right, that's what I've been saying. For heaven's sake, woman, look at the name. It's James, and my name is John. The maid smacks him again. Thud. That was heard.
Should.
As she should. You cheeky man. So, would you like to move on?
Yeah, let's move on to the next statement.
Perfect. So, the aftermath of which can clearly be seen by observing the carpet over there. So, this is referring to the incident that's still occurring. So, a very expensive woolen carpet, if I'm not mistaken. This time, madame, I'm afraid it is you who has inadvertently revealed the truth to me. Your wandering eye has settled upon that answer very neatly indeed. Yes, to explain the dire the state of the carpet, we only need to look at the Tower of Cakes.
Okay, let's examine the cakes.
It's a tower of cakes. Actually, more like a mountain. You also notice a candlestick, a circus handbill, and the carpet.
Okay, let's examine the candlestick.
Looks like an old candlestick. The base looks too small. Surely it's unstable. It looks like even the slightest knock would make it topple over. Upon closer inspection, you notice there's one candle missing.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, let's examine that circus playbill again, or handbill.
This is an advertising handbill for the circus, Batty's Circus. It's nearby in a park.
Okay, let's examine the carpet.
The carpet here has been ripped to shreds. If you look closely at the edge, you can see scorch marks.
So it seems like perhaps a candle fell over and went whoosh, whoosh. Can I present the candlestick and the missing candle?
Yes. Ah, great observation. Indeed they are. The scorch marks at the edge clearly give the truth away. Scorch marks. It would appear that this room was a scene of a marital altercation. Mrs. Greb's mighty arm muscles left an impression not only on her husband's face, but on the entire room. The force of her strike caused the candle to fall from the holder, and in seconds, the carpet was alight and the whole corner of the room in flames. You have gained information there from what has occurred from the night of from the day of the stabbing, from the landlord and from his wife/maid, from someone who is living on the street. We will now proceed, and we will actually have ended our investigation. We are moving on.
Okay.
And so we're going to move on a little bit. Mr. Greb is going to give his story to you. This is what he says has happened on the event, and then we're going to kind of proceed into the trial. So, Mr. Greb has stated that this is what went down. It's these dash long nights, you know, there's nothing to do but read in front of the fire. Luckily, there's a jolly old good second-hand bookshop just around the corner. Buy all my old novels there. In the pages of one particular novel, I discovered some rather illicit material, and my wife demolished me for it. The carpet was destroyed when the candle hit the floor, and the whole place filled with smoke. It didn't take long for the fire to spread. The furniture started going up as well. We've had to hide the mess behind that screen for the time being. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There I was, back against the window, under heavy firearm. Incendiary books coming 10 to the dozen. Worst of it, I lost my favourite book called The Lion's Pride. It was 2 days ago, let's see, around 5 o'clock, I think, on February 17th. So, at exactly the same time as a terrifying incident was unfolding outside your window on the street below. So, extra information given to what was happening around the scene of the crime. So, we're moving into the trial. Your goal, defend the client. You've got to get a not guilty verdict. I will be leading you through. I will be the judge. I will be the prosecutor. I will be the witnesses and the jury. Will I be changing my voice? No, but I will make it clear if I need to, if it's when I'm the witness, I'll make it explicitly clear I'm the witness, but otherwise I'll kind of just be not specifying who I am. It's not that important. You'll kind of get the gist of it anyway. So you obviously have Mael Strongheart. He is the Lord Chief of Justice. He will be the judge. Baron von Sykes is the prosecutor. So he is like obviously going to be arguing that this man did do it. Rowley B and Patricia B are the witnesses in this case. So that is the police officer earlier on. And then we have 6 jurors, obviously the defendant, and you are there. And you also have an assistant. I guess I'll also be your assistant. I've kind of tried to dwindle her role down quite a lot. No offense to her, but just tried to take it out just so there's not a lot of back and forth. But we'll go in. So this is now where we move into stuff in your court record is important. You can now examine things in there at wish. If you would like to examine anything, let me know. And you can also present it if you find it necessary. And basically people will be reading out stuff and then you can do with that information as you will. You'll kind of get the gist as we move. But I shall now present the summary of the events for the court. So, the victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green. The incident took place 3 days ago at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road. It had not long stopped since snowing, it'd be helpful if I could talk. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she's approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals, but she's been unconscious, and we've been unable to take a statement from her. Gregson presents the weapon, a jackknife, which has been submitted into the court record for your use and examination.
Okay. Can I examine the jackknife?
You can. So, you examine the jackknife. It seems to be a normal switchblade. Just at the tip, a small piece of blade appears to be missing.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yep. So that is it. Is there anything else you'd like to do before I proceed to the cross-examination, which is where you'll be able to do a lot more stuff?
Yeah, no, I think we're okay.
Perfectly. Well, we shall move. So, what is going to happen here? I'm going to read the statement to you, and then you'll have the opportunity to essentially press each statement. I'll make it more clear what that means when we get there. But, I've just slid the screen off. There you go. So I'm going to read it out, and then once you've digested the information, we'll go basically line by line, and you can do with the information what you will. So we'll move on.
Okay.
So, Gregson. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor, those being a number of old books he'd just brought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who those books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident. So a crime scene photograph has been submitted into the court record for your use and examination.
Great. Can I examine the crime scene photo, please?
This is the crime scene photograph. There you have it. I can obviously refer back to this at any need, but you have the victim here, Olive Green, lying sideways on the pavement with the jackknife in her back and 3 books scattered onto the pavement surrounding the victim.
Okay. Are we, can I know what the titles are, or is that not relevant?
Information of that can be given at a later date.
Okay.
At the moment, nothing else can be inferred from the crime scene photograph.
Got it. Okay.
So, you will now have the opportunity to cross-examine me, the inspector. You will be looking to find inconsistencies or contradict what was said. So you can either press for more information, meaning that I'll have to elaborate a little bit further, which might provide you with insight, or you can present evidence that you're like, hey, this doesn't match up with what's going on here. So remember, you have your court record of things. You can examine those things. It might provide you better insight. You can also use those to present if you feel like it might help you contradict something that was said. There's no limit on presenting and pressing. In the game, you would have lifelines. That is not the case. You're not going to be penalized if you do something wrong. So you can do it as much as you like. And I'll tell you if you've exhausted your uses for things. But we'll go. I'll go line by line. And if you want to do anything, you can let me know. Otherwise, I'll just read on. So, Statement 1. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog.
Can I press that?
Well, light for London. You see, the opposite side of the street for once, not much farther though. However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual, a fact no doubt laminated by the accused.
Okay. We can move on to the next one then.
Okay. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused.
I want to press that.
It can't be stated with certainty because that is what the witnesses of the crime have told us. The prosecution believes that there would have been ample light to witness such crime.
Can I press any further, or is it like once?
No further information can be gathered from pressing at this instance.
Okay. Okay, let's go to the next one then.
Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed to the pavement.
Okay, I think that's fine. We can move on.
The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor.
I want to press that.
I think you'll find it's all there in the crime scene photograph. The accused could have easily carried all 3 books in one hand, which means in his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example.
Okay, let's move on.
Those being the number of old books that he just brought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems.
Let's press.
The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings in this place here is Bourbon Books, a little place on the corner of Briar Road and Measham Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road, at the opposite end, which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. The judge, in this case. Yes, I concur with your inclusions, Inspector. The defendant would have certainly have to have passed by the scene of his crime on his way home from that particular shop.
Okay, we can move on to the next statement.
He was on his way home from Bourbon Books, a second-hand bookshop he apparently patronizes. Visits.
Let's press.
That's right, it's called Bourbon Books. That's the closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings, and to get there, back to his room, he would have gone past very right spot the incident took place. Well, we haven't actually confirmed it, no. The thing is, the shopkeeper's gone out on a trip, you see, left the morning after the incident to collect more stock, I'm told. So we haven't been able to ask the bloke if the accused visited his shop that day in question or not.
Okay, we can move on to the next statement.
It was just a matter of working out who those books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him.
Press.
That defendant's already admitted to it. He's admitted that those books or the overpayment at the scene were the ones he brought that day.
Can I press further?
No further pressing can be done on that statement.
Okay. Can I present the receipt that we have, or is that not helpful right now?
If you would like to present something, let me know what statement you'd like to present it on, and then we can see if that will do anything.
Okay, I want to present the receipt from the bookstore on Statement 7.
So presenting it on Statement 7 provides you with no information there. However, the receipt can be of use in this scenario.
Okay, can I present it on 5 then?
same as 7. No information can be gathered from presenting the receipt here, but it is of use.
Can I present it on 6?
This is the receipt that we found in Mr. Nasumi's room, the defendant. It was issued on the day of the incident, and the details of the purchase of the 3 second-hand books. The receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is the other second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that, well, it's such a small place. I didn't think the accused would have known about it. Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment? Well, obviously we looked into that. It turns out that Your Books is just here, on the next corner of Measham Street going east. I didn't think I need to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused was coming home from Your Books instead of Bourbon Books, there's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. So I will present you with the route the inspector is talking about. This is where Bourbon Books is on the map here, and this is obviously where he lives. This is the route he would have taken back home, and this is information that the inspector has provided for you. This is the map that may have been taken, and this is where Your Books is. So Inspector Gregson is stating that the defendant would have taken the same way home, despite which bookstock he visited. So it does not matter if he visited Bourbon or Your, because he would have taken the same route back via Measham Street and then via Briar Road. Would you like to do anything with this information? You can raise an objection, or you can leave this statement alone.
I would like to raise an objection. We can't prove that he would take the same way home. He could have easily taken Calabash Road and
Indeed.
I love that.
Prosecutor Van Seeks says, talking back to the clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that this route is what commonly is referred to as the long way round. The answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings and is the obvious perpetrator of the crime. I have already informed the court of the accused's response to such question. He claims he has no such recollection of the route he took home. The 6 members of the jury are now convinced of the defendant's guilt. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty. So we'll move on to the judicial findings. The jurors are like, absolutely not, Chief. Why would you go the long way round? Fuck that. Juror said no. Juror said you're telling fibs. So similar to what was doing in the cross-examination, I will read each of the jurors' statement. You can press for more information from the jurors. Then, once you think that 2 of the jurors are saying things that maybe contradict each other or could be used against one another, you can pit them against each other. So if someone's saying something and someone else is providing a theory or providing explanation, you can use that and be like, hey, you're both wrong, or there's something else fishy going on here.
Okay.
So I'm going to proceed. I'm going to proceed with the information. So, Juror 1. For pity's sake, that little Japanese fella has already admitted it to himself, hadn't he?
I'm going to press for more information.
You recognise this juror from a previous trial, and they claimed that they were on the witness stand. Otherwise, no useful information was gathered from this pressing.
Okay. We can move on to Juror 2 then.
If he said that woman in green collapsed before his eyes, it could have only have been the victim.
Let's press.
Well, quite. That's exactly my point. Clearly, that someone wearing green was the victim. He admits to stabbing her. His life is over. The man is obviously a liver-faced coward. Honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes is naive.
Okay. Let's move on to Juror number 3.
That man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter.
Let's press.
But it seems to me that what counts is whether or not the guy actually went that way or not. And at the moment, there's no proof that shows that he went the other way, is there? And I understand the accused himself doesn't exactly remember which way he went, does he? Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you'd want to get home as quickly as possible. I have given it a lot of thought, though, I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone down Calabash Road, it'd be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honestly, I would. So you have a juror on the fence here.
Okay. Let's move on to Juror 4 for now.
So the woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
Let's press.
You notice this, juror. This is the maid/wife of the landlord, who's also on jury duty. Spending all of his time in the dark and dingy room, sporting that unspeculous moustache, the man never speaks. And don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbours are talking about him. I've heard them, People must think he's building a bomb in there or something.
Feels a little racially motivated, if I'm being honest.
They say the most out-of-pocket things. They do. They really do.
Okay. Let's move on to jury number 5.
I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing.
We're going to press, because, buddy, you've got a more important job here. It's being a juror.
You wouldn't understand, but a labourer like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat, and neither do my wife or kids. I go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, though, it's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply lines bursting left and right centre. They're cheap labour to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn till dusk, it is. That's right, I was digging on the day of the incident, in fact. I remember rightly. It was just round the corner from where it all happened, by that old bookshop it was. That's right, it was Measham Street I was digging up.
Okay. Let's move on to juror 6.
You're booked, yes. Nice shot that, but bourbon books? No, not worth a visit.
Okay, let's press him.
I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're talking about. Well, I was picking out books all afternoon of the incident, and it would have just been before 5 I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day. Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on ice and donked my head. It's always worse when the snow stops falling. That's when it was most slippery. Knocked myself out clean. I did. I really thought it was up. And I got my green coat all messy with the ice and snow. It was really a disaster. But fortunately, I got home in time to enjoy my cup of tea.
Okay, I have so many threads moving in my head, and I'm so stressed about this right now.
You're all good. All good. I can repeat information if you would require. So if you'd like to just go back over what I've told you of any of the jurors, I can read it back out again. Just for your information, you will need to pit jurors together in order to convince them to sway their vote. So you are unable to move on until you have convinced some of the jurors to change their vote to innocent. I know that's not how it works in the court, but it is in this court.
I can pit more than once, right? It's not just 2 and then I'm done.
No.
Okay, for now, I would like to pit number 3 against number 5.
On the day in question, the defendant visited the bookshop to purchase a number of second-hand books, and on the same day, we know that there were works being carried out on Measham Street, making it impassable, which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Measham Street and down Briar Road. Well, yes, you can't really argue with that, can you? We must have had a good 2 yards of pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along would have had to turn back and go the other way. By golly, that is a revelation. Juror 3 and Juror 5 have changed their vote to innocent.
Okay, I would now like to do Juror 2 and Juror 6.
Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat who the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was this jolly gentleman at the end of the bench here today? And we know that they also fell on Calabash Road? I mean, what did you say to me? Is this the crime of an elderly to walk along the streets of the days? It seems a crime to slip over on ice. Is it a crime to keep up the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat? Therefore, if the person who the defendant saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant would have taken the long route home from his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home. Juror 2 and Juror 6 have changed their verdict to innocent. The examination has resulted in a big shift, and we will now examine the witness who was there at the crime scene. So the witnesses will be called up to the stand for your cross-examination. So congratulations on convincing the jury that you achieved it. Congratulations. Well done. I will read the statements out, and then as per, like you did with Ms. Gregson, you can then press and present where you see fit. Like before, anything in your court record that you can present, you can do that. If you'd like to examine anything that you have as well, you can do that as well. But I will go through them. And there we go. So this is Patricia Beat, who is actually speaking on the witness stand. Her husband, Rowley Beat, is the police officer who was there at the crime, but she will be speaking in this witness testimony, not him. So it was our wedding anniversary, and Rowley was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, 2 silhouettes appeared from the fog of the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, and then the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went to help for the nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolly and I both saw him clear as day. So, I will now repeat statements. You can press, you can present, as per usual. So, it was our wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work.
Let's press.
Rolly: that's right, sir. Although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet, but policing is my life, sir. So long as I'm proud of the owner of this, I will serve my city and my queen to the end. So Rolly is showing off his police warrant card here, basically being like, hey, I'm a police officer.
Good for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we can move on to statement 2.
Anyway, 2 silhouettes appeared from out of the fog on the pavement in front of us.
Let's press.
That's right, they were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. Van Sykes, the prosecutor. And you're certain that this time there was nobody else nearby? Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark and there were streetlights on Briar Road. You see, there was no one else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling? Huh? What? Yeah, that's right, of course. There was a light fog on the ground, but Briar Road is dead straight and you could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's a street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians.
Okay, we can move on to statement 3.
All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed to the floor, and then the other scattered something before running off.
Let's press.
Oh, well, I couldn't quite make it out at the time, but when we got closer, we realised what it was, didn't we, darling? What? Yes, that's right. It was some old books.
Okay. Let's press. Or let's move on to number 4.
We ran straight over, of course, and then we went to help at the nearby police box.
Let's press on that one.
No, see, my husband didn't go. I did. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am a proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling? Yes, what? That's right. I asked Mrs. Beat to go. I was off duty by that point, but a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box. The right police box depends on the crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed was actually not on my beat, so I told Patricia to find the nearest police box under the beat that the incident fell under so she can go and report it. I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There is nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know.
Okay, let's move on to statement 5.
It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolly and I both saw him as clear as day.
Press.
The light from the street lamps was more than enough, and my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he? Patricia gets agitated from the pressing that you have been doing to her on the witness stand and states, well, if you keep asking me all these questions about everything we've told you, so it seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is that it? Well, out with it. My husband's a policeman, remember, and you know what I saw. I remember every last detail, everything. Like, oh, I know. Well, the books the man dropped. I could tell you the names of every single one. I could, every single one. And you dared to question how reliable my testimony is. Per Patricia's outburst, it was stated that she needed to add that statement to her testimony, so a statement has been added. I could tell you the names of the 4 books he dropped at the scene.
Press on statement 6.
Prosecutor Van Sykes says, those purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop in the day in question, those 4 books, I presume. Patricia, after I'd been to the police box for help, well, I decided to have a good look at the area for good measure. I'm a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did for Rolly. And my husband at the time, well, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. He works so hard, you know, ever so hard, don't you, my darling? Judge, well, Mrs. B, you seem to have regaled the court with your tales of powers and recollection. Would you be so kind to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene? I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was The Picture of Monsieur Somebody or Other and What's It Yearnings. Then there was A Meal for Someone. And then the last one was definitely The Thingy Megummy Something, you see?
Okay. Can I present the receipt from my court records against that last statement?
This is the receipt from the bookshop where the defendant brought his books. Your books? Yes, and it details Mr. Natsumi's purchases that day. And as you can see, only 3 books are listed. Only 3, but no, that can't be. I remember seeing them. There were 4 books, I tell you. 4 old, dirty books. Oh, really? Well, have a good look at the photographic print of the crime scene. As you can clearly see, there is evidence as well that there are only 3 books. So, You show her the print, only 3 books. Prosecutor Van Sieks chimes in. It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect. You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found. It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. Prosecutor Van Sieks presents this crime scene photograph to the court record, which is now for you to examine and use. So this has been entered in. This is what it is. As you can clearly see, Olive Green is on the floor, and in her hand is a 4th book. In her hand.
Can I see what the title is?
The title of the book is The Lion's Pride.
Oh. Okay, that's relevant.
Information has been gathered. Yes, the book is entitled The Lion's Pride. The book has been badly burnt. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred recently. The 4th book has been entered into your court record. So the book that you see in this crime scene print has also been added into your court record as well. So you have the picture and the book itself.
Okay. I guess let's move on. I mean, like, I got some things connected in my brain, but
Well, very well, the judge says. The defense may present one further piece of evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case, to hereby overlook the guilty verdict. So Van Sieks is saying, trial's done, mate. Defendant, whatever. So that lasting cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast, there is no more room to debate. Pray, well, what is this insight you can give us? What have we overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue? Well, I'm now your assistant, saying that the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination has been finished. So we've already discussed the 4th book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, there is no significance to be attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of court's time, you know. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe the evidence in question contained an undiscovered clue. Would you like to raise an objection here, or would you like to leave it? Do you believe there is value to this?
Yes, I would like to object. There is value to this.
Yes? What would you like to present to tell the judge and the prosecutor that there is an undiscovered clue?
The second crime scene photo?
This photo has already been discussed at length. I must say you this. If there's any other information you can provide me, that would be great. But this photo provides nothing of insight as to why there is an undiscovered clue here. We know the victim is holding this book, therefore it belongs to the victim.
Am I able to present my, discussion with the landlord and the maid earlier?
Unable to discuss that. You can only present what you have in your court record. So that would be the local map, the receipt, the jackknife, the crime scene photo 1 and 2, and the 4th book.
Okay. I feel like I've done messed up somewhere here.
You have not done messed up. I promise you that.
Okay. Wait, can you repeat what's in my court record?
The local map, second-hand receipt, jackknife, crime scene photo 1, crime scene photo 2, and the 4th book, which is the book that is pictured in here in crime scene 2. That is also in your record. You have that.
Oh, can I present the book then?
Where on the book would you like to present? What specifically about the book?
The scorch marks.
What? Oh, goodness gracious, it's been burnt to a crisp. Were I to concede to the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So we should wish to assert that fire's damage is veiled clue as to what happened this day. Pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide? Well, don't keep us waiting any longer, counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage of this sorry tome first suffered? So, you have to present your theory on what this book damage means. So, what are you asserting that this fire damage proves? Obviously, you have 1, 2, or 3. So, does it prove the shop that sold it, its owner, or its content? What is the damage state?
Its owner. The second one.
I beg your pardon? But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was grasping it in her hand as she fell to the floor. It's obviously hers. But the question of this book came to be in the question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand is yet to be answered. However, as to the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defence has credible answers. Good gracious, how can you possibly... Well, I'll play along with this futile effort to attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may burn you if your gamble goes wary. Counsel, the defence response here is likely to influence the final outcome of the trial. So, tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book? So, who do you think this book actually belongs to?
The landlord, Mr. starts with a G. I forgot his name.
Yes. The landlords. That is outlandish behaviour. The woman and her husband are You're accusing them, you say? You implicate this hard-working member of the public? You besmirch her and her husband with a shred of evidence? Your actions are unforgivable. But I must state that is not merely conjecture. The defence happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident occurred, which was taking place in the room of the top floor of the landlord's house. Good Lord, what sort of incident, counsel? A fire, my lord. Afraid to say it was. Happened in a blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled up with smoke. Couldn't see a bloody thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The furniture started going up as well, and worst of it, I lost my favourite book. The book called Lion's Pride. Lion's Pride? By Jove, that's the very same title of this to settle this debate. Mr. Grab pipes in and says, had all my favourite novels in that case, but as soon as the fire got a hold of them, well, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me, and there I was, back up against the window, heavy under enemy fire, incendiary books coming 10 to the dozen. The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him? Goodness gracious, are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime? No, a thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there is nothing to report that the Garab's window pane was broken. That's quite true. We saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the household, but it's not conceivable that the windows were open in the time, not even remotely. Let us not forget the season, and the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Does the defence postulate that in the scenario of all seriousnesses, counsel, do you earnestly claim that the book that was found in the crime scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mrs. Garab? So, the jurors at this point are now like, bro, ain't no way, this went out the window, sus behaviour. Jurors are all now voting guilty again, and a second summation examination is going to these jurors are just a nightmare.
Honestly.
Imagine if how it worked in real court that they could just change their answer. They pull like little flags and then it tips the scale. It's so funny. I'm like, imagine if that's how it worked in real court. It'd be crazy. So, apologies. The inspector is the judge, inspector, and prosecutor have a sore throat. So once again, I'll be reading the jurors. You can press, you can pit. You've got the hang of it now. So we'll go. So juror number 1. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his.
Press.
Well, what difference does it make between 3 or 4 books? Well, at the point that the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said. Well, anyway, the point is, he and his wife weren't there. They were somewhere else where it happened. So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it. It only leaves the defendant. Honestly, I can't see what all the palaver's about. It's a done deal, isn't it?
Okay, we'll move on to 2.
If there was some oh my god, can't say that word. If there was some other explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider.
Press.
Us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know, so I'd be happy to consider an exciting new theory if you'd come up with one.
Okay, fascinating. We'll move on to statement 3.
Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to the crime if the window was closed, can it?
Press.
Well, yes, it certainly seems that way. And on the account of the smoke, I imagine they would have had the windows wide open in spite of cold. Yes, that's right. So there's definitely a chance that one of the books could have been thrown past the man out the window. Only I can't really see how it would have gone all the way to the other side of the road, that's all.
Okay. Move on to juror 4.
Dearie me, it was only a little book, hardly a life-threatening, even with direct hit.
Press.
Oh, never mind you that. The point is, we were having a little jovial little dispute, nothing more, and I wouldn't have any more of these suggestions that there was anything to do with this crime. And now that you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I've clearly forgotten, but it's true. The fourth book at the scene of the crime shows various signs of damage, and it is also The Lion's Pride, the same title, in fact, that Mr. Greb told he's been reading. Well, I couldn't really say, and I can't really say if he was reading it that day, but can you state that you threw this book at your husband? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I held it at him. And, come to mention it, yes, he was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. And I couldn't say anything before because at this time, I didn't remember what I picked up. You pick up things and you throw whatever you can lay your hands on at your husband, She was just throwing shit.
Okay. We'll move on to 5.
Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a bit of a tidy bit of trouble.
Let's press.
I told you already. I'm a day labourer, aren't I? And if I don't bring home some readies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning. A situation like this cropped up the other day, and it was, it's funny, but I can't quite remember. A woman in rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought that home to me. That's right. She was chopping meat with it, had a tidy edge on it, believe me. Still, it's all memories, isn't it? It's like that smile that she threw at me when we were all courting, and since then, the list of things she's thrown at me has grown along with our relationship. There was a cup, then a glass, then a pot, then a kettle, then a chair, a wardrobe, a cooker, a bathtub.
How does a woman throw a bathtub?
I don't know. This man's wife is throwing a bathtub, though, apparently. This labourer is like, hey, my wife, she crazy. She throwing bathtubs. Ripping it out the floor. I don't even understand.
Let's move on to juror number 6.
Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes.
Press.
It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on top. What a sight to behold it was. What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames, and then, because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it. Winter house fires are dire. You have to open all the windows to clear the smoke. That's when the chill gets you, you see.
Okay. Can I pit 4 and 5 against each other?
Attempting to pit 4 and 5 against each other leaves you no results. The jurors do not understand your line of questioning here and are frustrated with the waste of time.
Okay, so sorry. Can I do 6 and 3?
Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh, so exactly on the day of question at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the household, and he had the same... And, of course, if it was filled with smoke, then, oh, my hat, then it'd be assured that the window must have been open. So, that's it. Mrs. Grab has finally admitted to it. What a very significant victory for the defence. So, established, window was open.
Okay. Can we move on then? Is there more I needed to do here?
There is more you would need to do in this scenario, yes.
Oh, shit. Okay. Let's see. What about 2 and 4?
No line of questioning can be dealt with number juror 2 and 4.
Okay, 2 and 5?
Juror number 2. Do you think perhaps that this could be a novel explanation as to why the victim could have been stabbed? Oh my, whatever do you mean? A novel explanation to explain how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? Well, we've demonstrated that the fourth book, The Lion's Pride, was found at the crime scene, originated from Mr. Grebb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way out of side of the Grab household onto the street below. What's that now? After all, Mrs. Greb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you beanpole? Now, listen here. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You've given this yarn about something of an object making its way out of the house. But what? All right, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defence's theory. The other object that found its way outside of the Grab household at the scene of the crime was...
a jackknife?
Juror number 4, Mrs. Greb. What now? I must apologise in advance, but I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Good Lord, counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged in the victim's back, man. My lord, remember when this victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Greb were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Greb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who's been backed up against a window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book had sailed and landed at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe that. The book that was found in the victim's grasp? Are you saying that it flew out the window across the street and landed neatly in her hand? Ha! Even my missus hasn't got a name like that. Yes, I admit, there are many details we don't understand. But that's precisely the point. That's precisely why we cannot let this trial end. Not right now. Mrs. Greb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before? Mrs. Greb faints. She falls to the floor. As a result of the defence's examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors have called guilty and 4 are now calling innocent. According to the opinion that the court is divided, this trial will continue. So, upon the trial continuing, you basically, defense asks, hey, can we like call to the witness stand Mrs. Greb, and prosecution's like, absolutely not, chief, but you can have Rowley and Patricia beat back because they were witnesses to the crime, so they know what's going on. They were there, they saw it, so they will now be making another statement. They will be returning.
Beautiful. Okay.
So this is them again. Now both Rowley and Patricia will be stating. I'll say them line by line. If you want to interject, press whatever, just do it. I won't read them all at once. You can just do it. So Rowley says, this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Greb. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word.
Press.
A very good question, and the answer is this. If it has this noble founding principles of the force written on a reminding that all police officers are sworn duty to patrol the streets of London town and uphold peace on the common man, is what the job's all about. And that's why I can stand here to say and beside my long-suffering wife and tell you that a Bobby's good for his world, while rubbing my tiredly eyes. Well, yes, I will answer it to my fullest abilities. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Greb's domestic dispute cannot be related to this case. But before I get to that, just one thing. I'd very much like you and your countrymen to understand that the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you take back some of this tales to London Bobbies and uphold our guiding principles. So I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for perusal, but I must warn you, you won't be able to get through with it without shedding some tears. So Rowley has given you his warrant card. This is now in your court record, if you'd like to look at it. He's just given it to you to be like, yo, go tell Japan about England.
Okay.
He's a bit of a weirdo.
A little bit. Okay, we can move on to the next statement.
You see, so the windows on the top floor of the Greb household are top hinge casements.
Press.
Yes, so they're only allowed to let a little bit of air into the house, you see, so they're restricted to how much they can open, and therefore anything thrown out of the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is where the objects would have fallen. I will get to that, don't worry. I will show you where that is.
Okay.
Yes, directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road. And what would that be, sir? And how would you know? Why would you know the windows that Mr. and Mrs. Greb are furnished with? Well, it's simple. I helped with an investigation there yesterday. And do you have something to add, Mrs. B? Well, you look delighted. Is there any particular reason to that? I just remember we were so lucky, that's all. Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked, don't misunderstand me. But we were just so lucky that it didn't happen on Rowley's beat. It was so close, you see. Oh, I hadn't realised. Oh yes, that street by a road, that's the boundary between Rowley's beat and the next one, isn't it? Yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out interviewing the occupants of the Grab household yesterday. Their house is in my beat, you see. Constable, I would like you to clarify something. If the Greb household is on your beat, does that mean the pavement next to it as well? Outside of Mr. Greb's household, yes ma'am, that side of the pavement is on my beat, the other side is not. Just think, if that wouldn't have been attacked on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go off to our meal and celebrate our wedding anniversary. So the case information has been updated to the court record. On the map, I sent it to you. I don't know if I have it actually on the slides. I don't want to go forward. But they are referring to, with the lodgings, they are stating, I will actually go back on this way, just so we don't get any spoilers. So they are stating that where the scene of the crime happened was on the line of Bourbon Books. They're saying that's where the victim was found. And Rowley's beat is kind of the left side of the map in the middle of Briar Road. So imagine a line down the middle of Briar Road. Rowley's beat is on the left side, and the other one is not his beat. And given the windows at the lodgings, the book and whatever was thrown out there would have hit the pavement directly below, as opposed to the opposite pavement where the victim was found.
Okay.
I thought I had it on my thing. Well, I don't know if I do. I might do. Oh, what have I done? I might do, but I can't remember.
That's okay.
I can't remember what I put in there. It'd be helpful if I had the little doc, but I don't. So, yeah,
All right,
your
we'll move
information
on
has
to
been
the next
updated.
statement.
Okay. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we obviously would have seen it.
Press.
Oh, but Rody and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star. The star that would guide us to eternal happiness. If a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star, and if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rowley be an inspector, I would have said, 3 times at least. In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife have crossed the sky before you? Yes, that is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir. No projectiles were seen.
We can move on.
I did leave the scene to go and fetch some help, but my trusty Rowley was there to make sure nothing was disturbed.
Press.
That's right, yes. If it had been on Rowley's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't have expected to know the location of every police box on every beat. So Rowley told me the way, only I sort of got lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your sense of terrible direction. Oh, Pat, oh, Rowley, they're being weird here. Just whatever. So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes, but like I said, my Rowley was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never truly off duty. I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes. I saw it, I did, that evening. I saw it clearly. That man and that funny curved back singling away from the scene. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives throwing through through the sky. Oh, well, yes, my sense of direction is a little bit embarrassing. I've always ended up in the wrong place. Even when I made arrangements to meet Rowley, he gets ever so cross. What happened was I dropped my bouquet and it ended up losing my way for a while. You mean you dropped your bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right. And I was so upset. We ran over and saw it. We ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back. I was so shocked. I dropped the bouquet, but Rowley gave me. It was dark in a dark spot where the street lights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice that at first. Yes, and then I came back to the scene together after going to the police box together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. In case you need reminding, Mrs. B, the victim is not deceased. I was flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably. That's right, silly me. I'd gone over to the other side of the street. Although, I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think of how I got there. I really can't. Curious indeed, isn't it? But the worst of it is, I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Rowley got me, with the change of the gutter that he spent so long connecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this? Solitary rose. The prosecutor Van Seeks reveals the bouquet. Yes, that's it. That's the bouquet Rowley brought for me for our anniversary, with the odd bits of change he found in the gutter. Tell us, Lord Van Seeks, where did you come by this flower? According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Gareb household. Although it wasn't noticed until morning, as it lay in where the street lamps cast no light, it was believed to be of no relevance to the case since it was found on the opposite side of the road. Oh, thank you. Can I take it back now? No, I think for good measure this rose should be added to the court record as evidence. So, the rose bouquet, one single rose, has been added to your court record for examination and use.
Okay. We'll move on to the next statement.
I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment. Nothing strange to report on that front.
Press.
That's correct. I had my eyes open the whole time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. I swear to the yard's honour. This burnt copy of Lion's Pride was originally in the Garab household. So the question remains, how did it find its way to the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime? Aha! Could it be a different copy? One that had just burnt as well? Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping the book like that in her hand? As you can see from the photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived to the scene.
Can I object or something? I don't know what to do here.
You can present
suspicious.
Something. Suspicious. Suspicious.
Okay. What all is in my court record?
So you have local map, second-hand receipt, jackknife, crime scene photo 1, crime scene photo 2, fourth book, and this, Rowley's warrant card and the bouquet.
Okay, I'm thinking. Sorry.
You can think. I can repeat. I can provide. I'm here.
I'm putting the pieces together. I just don't know how to make them work here.
Yeah, that's kind of what this thing of the game is. It gives you so much information. You're like, okay, I connected the dots, but I haven't truly connected the dots. The dots want me to connect.
Yeah. Like, I've got the dots, but I think it's the wrong dots.
No, I think you know. I think you know. Don't think too much on it. Don't you think too much on it.
Okay.
But-
Can I? Oh my god. Sorry. Court record one more time.
Yes, of course. So you have local map, second-hand receipt, jackknife, crime scene photo 1, crime scene photo 2, the fourth book, and the rose that was just presented by Van Seeks that Patricia said that she dropped at the scene.
Okay. Can I try crime scene photo 1 against statement 5?
Crime scene photo 1 against statement 5 provides you with no further information.
Rude. Okay. Can I phone a friend?
You can phone a friend. You were just given valuable information from Patricia B stating that she dropped something at the side of the crime scene. Why is this of significance, and what does it contradict within the statements given by the couple?
Okay, so I want to present the rose against 5?
You claim, Constable Beat, that nothing was to report in the 15 minutes or so regarding the scene, but that cannot be. Well, what do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to the beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby. Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road where the victim was attacked, but considering the size of the meagre bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs. Which is pretty brutal, to be honest. But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact? No one approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore that on Scotland Yard's honour. But the bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rowley didn't mention it, I'm sure. No, because sadly it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is a mystery the wrong way round. What are you talking about? So, what are we talking about in this instance? Something else is the wrong way round. You have the bouquet on the other side of the road, and that's a mystery. We also have the mystery of how did the book projector fly to the other side of the road? Do you have any thoughts, theories that you would like to present?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Rowley moved everything to the other side of the street, but I just don't know how to make that work with the evidence I have.
That's okay, you don't need to. You've told me what you want to say. We will progress. Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, Mrs. Grebb's book. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's also Mr. Grebb's book, Mr. Grebb's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out the window by his wife, which would have struck the pane of the casement in the window and landed here, on the side of West Street, so underneath the lodgings. And yet, it was actually found on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped actually at the scene of the crime, as she was in shock from seeing the victim's body. But it wasn't. It was found below the victim's house, below the defendant's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless someone deliberately moved them. What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Rowley's done something. Tampering. You've barely even heard the term before. Tell us, who would have possibly had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate your conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime?
Rowley.
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rowley Beat. It was you. What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard? What nonsense. My Rowley would never do something like that. There's no one straighter than my husband. No Bobby works more nicely for the two people of London. I just read that and I was like, that sounds a weird saying. Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to the nearby police box to fetch an officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it. You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about that defendant? I bet it was him. He did it. If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it. And forgive me for pointing out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Well, first you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with, but there's only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime. To hide something. That's right. He's right. But my husband and I just happened to be there. That's all. So why would we have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense. You've offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing more than empty threats. So, Constable Beats' motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell, where the book fell, or where the bouquet fell.
Where the victim fell.
Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We already told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement on Briar Road. We saw it happen, remember? It was right here, and if anyone didn't know, that's certainly what everybody has been led to believe. But in fact, that's not where the victim was stabbed at all. What? I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, counsel. If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know. Where did the crime take place? Where did the crime take place? Point out on the map for me.
On the left side, under Mr. Natsume's lodgings.
But that's on the opposite side of the road. I don't understand. On the evening in question, Mr. Grebb's book directly fell from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. B, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself. Good gracious. Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has provided, but these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place. That's right, I saw it with my very own eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was a typical London fog on the ground, and when you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually on the west side of Briar Road. No, that's not true. It couldn't have been. Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent while send you off to help, and during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all those things shown in the print, the victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement of the east side of the Briar Road. But the constable overlooked one thing. What? What did he overlook? The bouquet, I presume. Exactly. Well, it couldn't have been seen in the dark, obviously, which is why only the bouquet that was found in its original position on the west side of Briar Road. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? I was a respected member of Scotland Yard. Your duty is to protect the good people of London town. I am really sorry for this, for damaging the Yard's reputation. I have one possible explanation for why on that particular evening Constable Beat felt more compelled to move the crime scene. I can think of one reason. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear your extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defence, if you please. At once. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's action. What gave away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions of tampering with the crime scene? Why did he do it? Why did he move things?
Is this a multiple choice, or do I just have to give you my answer?
You just have to give me your answer.
He did it because if it happened where it actually happened, that was on his beat, and then him and his wife would not be able to go out to dinner to celebrate their anniversary, so he moved it so it would be somebody else's responsibility.
You just said what I was going to read, so absolutely spot on. Yeah, so Constable Beat announced that he would, basically, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist to all initial investigations and help detectives. Yes, so everything he said, it's right. It was the first time I've become a copper and cursed to say, stay close to me. We got to the report to the station as quickly as possible, but then it dawned on me, as I realised where we were, the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered, I must deal with the initial investigations. Why here? Why did it have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? It's a copper's job to guide the scene, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak, it just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the beat next to mine, Pat, so you'll just have to go to the police box that covers it, turn right on Meacham Street, and then can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from the other side of the road in total? Oh, yeah, it was 4, definitely 4. 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsumi, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs of the Greb household, of course. But what made you place the book in the victim's hand, when all the others were scattered haphazardly around? Oh, well, that's because that's how I found it. That's how you found it? What do you mean? When we first ran into the scene, the victim was already holding the book, so when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding? Oh yes, nothing about it. I thought it was an open shut case, you see. There was only 2 people at the crime scene, and the Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you look at it, it had to be the fellow who'd run off who'd done it. I thought, I couldn't really see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it over the road would cause this much of a jot of a difference. I suppose this is it for me. I've had it. Well, this is quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought a third party of transplanting the entire scene of the crime like that? Indeed, my lord, nevertheless, there is some immutable facts here. Principality that the accused, Mr. Suzuki Natsumi, is the only person who could have committed the crime. Very well, name the person if you will, defence. If the further investigation is warranted, the prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. You will name this other person who potentially could have perpetuated the crime. So, if it wasn't your defendant, who do you think caused the knife in the back of this woman? Who do you think did it?
The wife maid of the landlord.
I refuse to believe all this nonsense. Mrs. Garibda. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. Couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. So yes, I want evidence. I want to see the hard evidence if you're going to insist that it's my fault. You're going to prove that I threw the knife, that's what you think. Come along now, chop chop, do your worst. Then take the stand, juror. The prosecution does not object to the defence's request to cross-examine this woman. At this point, John, her husband, joins the stand. They will now be both taking the stand. They'll be doing their little... Oh, sorry, I forgot to take that, lol. Here she is. And here they are. Forgot what I put in the slides, clearly I'm useless. Here they are. Wow, you're doing so well. Very proud of you. So you're gonna do a witness testimony again. You're gonna press them. You're gonna present them. Whatever you want to do. You got the gist. So, Gareb is the man, is the husband, and Joan is the woman. Not that it really matters, but just so you know, that's the difference. So yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now.
Press.
Well, if I do actually remember the reason. You told it to us yesterday. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked into pages of books belonging to you. And she gave him a mighty number of slaps for the face of it, too. What a sordid state of affairs. Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't recall such a thing, it's common decency not to drag it all up. And besides, half of it was a wide mark anyway.
Okay.
I got slapped. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out, though, and it got the window open.
Press.
The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine, just so happens there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed about to put it out. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street where the main water isn't connected yet. Have to draw the water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see. I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough.
Interesting. Okay, we can move on.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Press.
As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. In all honesty, I don't recall, but I must feel to point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, a sponge, and a napkin. It was only soft items I was throwing, and it was really most restrained. The majority of them barely hit John. He is my husband, after all. I see, Mrs. Grebb, your thoughtfulness and consideration for your spouse is apparent. What about you, Mr. Grebb? Do you remember what your wife threw at you? Well, I recall The Lion's Pride, of course. Jolly good book. I only purchased it too. And a jolly good book for burning, it seems. But it was a dashed awful scene at the battlefield, I can tell you. Flames everywhere, smoke billowing, couldn't see a bloody thing. I dare say I wouldn't even have noticed the knife bouncing off the old bonds. You also, at this point, get his pipe added to your court record that you can examine and use. So the pipe that he has in his mouth that he was smoking, it's there. It's there for you.
I'll examine that quick.
It looks to be in a sorry state with the bandage around it. You notice something twinkle inside of the chamber. You give it a shake and a fragment of metal that looks like a tip of a blade falls out.
Okay. We'll move on to statement 4.
Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd noticed if one or two of them went missing, I'm afraid.
Press.
Nothing to say, really. Rather partial to a spot of carving, you see. Pipes and whatnot. Fishing tackle. You know, that sort of thing. So, sorry to say that we're losing knives all over the place, and we have a dozen other things.
Okay. Moving on.
If the bally thing was in the victim's back, really was one of ours, you'll have a good job of proving it, I think.
Press.
Grubb has no intention of admitting to whether or not the jackknife is his. But for now, we shall find an alternative method of proving our assertion. That is, that the knife in the victim's back was originally Mr. and Mrs. Grubb's house.
Yes. Okay. Can I present both the jackknife from my court record, but also that little fragment I found in the pipe?
Mr. Grubb, can I ask you to take a good look at these, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You used to call me Dead-Eyed Dead back in the regiment, of course, but that was some time ago. Oh, what is this? Prosecutor Van Zeek examines what you presented. A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defence come by this evidence? It was lodged in the pipe of Mr. Grebb. From Mr. Grebb. My pipe? By Jove, you say. I wonder how it got in there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, counsel? Are you suggesting that in some way it's related to the stabbing of Brian Road? We are. When you put it together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny piece of fragment unravels the whole case. This is the knife we found in the victim's back. If you look more closely, you will see that a small piece of the tip of the blade is missing. A common issue with the inferior blades sold at the savoury street markets is criminals who usually use them leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones. And what of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate and now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim. The tip of this knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we've just established was found in Mr. Grebb's pipe. Good grief, Lord Van Zeeks. I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match. Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask here is, when did the fragment of metal find its way into the pipe? Something that was clarified to us was most recent in the witness testimony. Had this thing in my hand at the usual time of our onslaught, knocked it clean out with one hand with her soft projectiles, yes she did. Yes, it would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Oh dearie me. During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Grebb flung her knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Grebb, instead striking his pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip of the knife to break off, of course. Yes, and that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way into the pipe. The chances of this are 1,000,000 to 1, and yet there's no other credible explanation as to how the tip of the blade got into your pipe. And then, losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window. In short, the knife which fell from the window of the Grebb's house is this very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast to my friend's characteristically approach to bottling his argument. But after all, it is just a theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked because, you see, it's spoiled by an insurmountable inconsistency. Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. What inconsistency could you have identified? An inconsistency is simplest true nature, my lord. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back. Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife had struck her from above, there's no possible way it could have planted itself in the victim's back. Quite right, you see. That's exactly it. If the knife had fallen from above, it would have struck her on the top of the head. There is a piece of evidence in the court record that could explain this inconsistency. Counsel, what are you suggesting? What can you present to show that this might not actually be an inconsistency?
The book?
The burnt book? Is that not Mr. Grebb's book? And yes, to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene of the crime in the first place. As we can see from the crime scene photo as well, it clearly shows the book in question and the victim holding it in her hand. But as we know, it was the police constable that put her book between her fingers like that. Quite so. However, as part of his testimony, Constable Meat made an enlightening statement. That's how he found it. When at the scene of the crime, the victim was already holding the book. In other words, the victim had picked up the book on her own volition, and clearly, that must have been before she suffered her knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she did much after that. So the question becomes, why did the victim have the book in her hand? By jingo, I'm beginning to see what happened here. We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Grebb household onto the pavement below, and at precisely that moment, the victim was walking past. Yes, exactly at that moment, the young woman was walking down the street in the light fog, and when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her. The book I threw. Yes, Mrs. Grebb, and what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking down along and suddenly a book landed right in front of you in the pavement? Well, I can't really imagine, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked up the book. And when the woman reached down to pick up the fallen book, what position would her back been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely, utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was bent over picking the book up, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. And at the same time, walking by chance, behind Miss Green was the defendant. And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw nothing but the victim and her apparent attacker. So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. The jurors get this information, and the jury and the judge deem the defendant not guilty. You did it, Basti. The dots were connected. You nailed it. Congratulations, not guilty. You won. You told Baron
of that happening.
No, I mentioned this before, but I was like, when I first had this idea to do this was the case that I was like, when I did this case for the first time, I was like, what the actual fuck? Because I got to the point where, like, I was at the trial, right? And I was like, are they really insinuating what I think they're insinuating? Are they really insinuating this knife flew out the window and hit this woman in the back? And I was like, no way. I was like, that can't be it. Like, I must be missing something, right? And then I got to that point and I was like, they really are. They're really saying this knife flew from the window and hit this woman in the back. And you know what? This isn't even that outlandish. There is some crazy, crazy stuff that happens. But this one was the funniest one for me. But you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. I'm so glad. Congratulations. You connected the dots. You figured it out. You literally only needed one helpline, but I think you would have gotten there regardless. So you crushed it. Congratulations, you are a genius.
Yeah, I was connecting the dots. I just didn't know how to make the dots connect.
No, and it is harder when you don't have it all in your hand. Like when you're obviously playing it like on the Switch, you're able to like go through and like look at all the character profiles and look at all the evidence, and it's a little bit more like you can kind of piece together what it's trying to say. And you do get instances where it's like your like assistant will be like, hey, like you gotta find an inconsistency, bro. Like so it's like
yeah.
So it's like, oh well, I don't know, but I'm very, very, very pleased. Very pleased.
We did it.
You did it. You did it.
I am the next Elle Woods.
You are. You truly are. It was really fun because I could see moments where like I was saying something and you realize the impact of the statement. You're like, I was like, yes. I was like, she gets it. Because it's hard. Like if someone's just reading stuff to you, I'm like, is she gonna get what I'm picking down? How do I like present it in a way? Because when they're on the stand, they're nibbling their teeth, and sometimes like you can kind of get the vibe. So pleased.
So proud of myself.
I'm boiling. I'm boiling. Gotta take off my blazer. I'm roasting, man. You can see this. I would like to see the sweat on my face grow throughout the episode.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, this court is adjourned. This court is done. I'm done.
I'm gonna post on our TikTok like a clip from Legally Blonde and just be like, no context spoilers for our next episode.
For real though. Like it is like Criminal Minds shit. It's crazy. Also the meme. Yes. I've connected the dots. You haven't connected shit. I've connected the dots.
I was also going to post that. Yeah, that's going on Instagram.
That's me during every attorney investigation. I'm like, I've connected the dots, and they're like, you haven't connected shit. I'm like, I've connected the dots. I've got it.
Yes. No, I was also thinking of that. I think it's from like Community or something. That one guy where he's just like got the board behind him.
Oh yes, yeah.
And he's like,
no. Sometimes that's for real how it is. That's sometimes for real how it is, and I'm like, I don't even remember. But this is what I'm saying. Like, I've given it to you all in one go. Like, these cases can be like 6-7 hours long. Like, because you obviously like click and go through all the dialogue and stuff, and I've obviously condensed it a little bit and cut all the bullshit out. But it's like if you don't play it all in one day, bro, good luck remembering what happened. Like, I sometimes have left in the middle. Like, it's like there's like sometimes like trial part 1, part 2, part 3, just because it's really long. This has like 2 parts, I think, in the trial. But like, if you like leave it, bro, I come back and I'm like, what was I doing? like I don't actually remember. And they're like, what about this defense? And I'm like, I don't know what I was doing. I can't remember what I was doing. But you know, success.
I did it.
You can defend.
You did a good job putting this together.
Thank you. Yeah, it was one of those things where I'm like, this could suck. Like, this could just suck. But I was like, hopefully it's more like a D&D text-based vibe where it's like, I'm leading you, but you do all the thinking and putting together kind of thing. It was weird. It was weird to do.
I would say the hardest part, just in case we ever want to do this again, is when you were like reading conversations.
Yes. Yeah, there needs to be a better way to do that.
I was struggling to like keep up with like who was saying what and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe if you want to like next time, just a thought, print out like little character heads and like put them on like popsicle sticks. And then you can just like hold them up so I know who's talking.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. That's the thing. Because I was like, I don't want to be constantly being like, Joan, inspector, because it's like, blah, 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 blah. But yes, I do recognise how that is confusing. So, feedback. Yes. And as always, if other people have feedback on this, let me know. Because maybe we'll do something like this again, or we'll do a similar concept of this. I don't know exactly what it could be, but, you know, if people have thoughts, feelings, good feelings, I hope, let me know. Because this was fun to do. I truly went into this being like, oh, I'll keep it quite low-key. And 48 pages, Google Doc pages of notes later, and like 32 slides, we move. And I also color coordinated all my notes with all the characters and when you needed to present and when you needed to examine. So I knew that I couldn't move you forward. So I had everything so prepared. And I was like, this is where she needs to press. This is where she needs to present. Like yellow was presenting, you can't even see, like this is all my notes, like look how crazy that is.
I would just like for our podcast listeners to understand how often Scar tells me she has no free time.
Yeah.
And yet
no, this was no, because this is the thing. I'm like, I don't have any free time, right? Like I don't. But then I think of something like this and I'm like, well, I have to commit any time that I do have, do this one thing. Like,
Does Scar drink enough water or
No.
exercise enough or get enough sleep? No.
No.
But does Scar put together Ace Attorney games? Yes, multiple times.
Yeah. Listen, you can count on me to make a silly goofy game. That's fact. That's fact.
It's true.
I will
It's true.
never fail. Once I get the idea, it's done. It's done.
I need to come up with a silly goofy game now for you.
You do. I look forward to it. I love games. I just love it. They're so fun to do. Like, they're so jolly. They're so jolly. They're so jolly.
I'm
love
thinking
it.
now.
You can think. There's a lot of things.
Thinking.
You know, there's a lot of things. We have a few episodes in the works as well. We're cracking through. So, you know.
I only half remember this book, but I do remember it just being the weirdest fucking plot. It's a thriller, mystery. It was very weird.
There's a lot of book related games you could do because, you know, they do be wild. They do be wild. Yeah, I currently have no games cooking in my brain, so don't worry, we're clear for the foreseeable future. No games are cooking in here. No games.
Catch me just doing a game where you have to guess who said the quote from the Folk of the Air series.
Lord above. I did read it all, so hopefully I would have some semblance of awareness, but
hopefully.
It's a real test of how well do you know your favorite books? That would be embarrassing. I think I'd actually cry.
See, the problem is I haven't read all your favorite books, so
that's true. You have not. So you'll have to do yours, and then I'll have to see how well I know things. And if I don't know anything, then I'll just be bad, and I'll be sad and be bad.
Sad and bad.
Sad and bad. That's sad and bad. I'd love to do an F1 one, but I wouldn't know what that is. I don't know what that entails. It'd be fun to do one of those, but I don't know how that would work. I don't know what the concept would be. Maybe we just chat shit. I don't even know, but there's potential.
Yeah, I think we should do an F1 related episode.
We should. I've converted. You have been converted. So
I have.
It's great.
I was literally doing math last night of how do I realistically afford to watch F1 next year. It's not looking good, Chief.
It's not looking good, Chief. No. It's spenny. It is spenny. But listen, I love this. So maybe we'll do something on that. I don't know what it could be. But one other thing. But we have other episodes cooking. We have another Untold Dawn one cooking. Surprise, surprise to no one.
The way my brain first went, we do? Yes, we do. I understand now. I'm back.
It's cooking. And then it's Halloween. Soon? Bro.
Yes. I know.
Crazy. But well done on defending. You officially are successful. You've won your first court case. So congratulations. I will
put that on my resume.
I will give you your certificate. Okay. You don't get certificates for it. Yeah, congratulations. I hope everyone enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed. This was good fun. Yeah. I need to sleep for 1,000 years now.
Yes. All right. Let's end this. This is a long one. We need to go.
This is long.
People got places to be.
Okay. We got lives.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. To stay connected with us, then follow us on social media, which are linked in the description. I've been Emily.
And I've been Scar.
Tune in next time for the best cottagecore podcast for the cottage whores.